6 signs that the worst is over for the economy. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, because, well, this is going to be another interesting one. Now, this morning we had a look through Gumtree at several people who were giving away businesses for nothing. Some examples of commercial property, which had lost, well, over 200,000 in just a few months. You know, a big chunk of their valuation. 200,000 isn't much if you're talking a $10 million property, but it is if you're talking about 1 or 1.1. So, I thought we should look at this article. 6 promising signs the worst is over for Australia's economy, everyone. Our unemployment rate is at 6.9%. Some states are worse than others. We still have JobKeeper propping up the economy. We've got JobMaker being rolled out to, well, pretty much incentivize people to hire young. The young, because we're not talking a lot of money, but the chance of intergenerational economic scarring happening from young people is a big problem. And apparently the worst is over. Don't forget, we've got mortgage holidays still in force by a lot of people taking advantage of it. We've got the lowest cash rate in, well, forever, 0.1. Lucky I bothered updating that chart, or else we wouldn't see that 0.1 there. We have trading while insolvent, everyone. Now think about that. That means that businesses can take on services from others, fully aware that they can't pay those bills when they fall due. Just think about that, everyone. You know, if you're doing business with someone and they stiff you. For me, I'm an architect. I lose labor and, electricity and software charges. That's it. That's not too bad. I can absorb that. I mean, okay. Now that I don't have any staff anymore, I can absorb that a lot easier than when I had 5 or 6 people working for me. It got really tight sometimes when they stiff you. But it's not that bad. It's bad, but it can get a lot worse. What if you're a tradie working for someone, working for a builder who can trade while insolvent? Fully knows that he can't pay you for the stuff they're getting to put you into the building. I don't understand how they've allowed this through. The government's just changing the goalposts again and again and again. So what's the point in having these institutions, these rules, these mechanisms in place for when times get tough, they just change the bloody rules? That's the real question there, and that's what I put to you. So that's the thing. Anyone predicting, oh, real estate's going to fall now, and, look at all these things. We kind of have to throw it out the window because the government can just change the rules again. What can they do to just push the bubble? And how can anyone claim? I know Koukoulas, an interventionist, labor-leaning economist, okay? So there you go. But how can anyone legitimately claim that the worst is over when all these support mechanisms are in place? We're on life support. So you tell me in the comments, guys. I was having a relaxing Saturday, and then I thought I'd get to this. It's bloody hot here in Queensland. So, it is all too easy to fall into a trap using a few snippets of positive economic news to declare good times ahead. After all, the Australian economy is only just emerging from its deepest recession since 1930s, and there are still around 2.5 million Australians either unemployed or underemployed. See, this is the thing. It takes time for this damage. The damage has happened to the economy. It's occurred. It takes time for that damage to ripple through. It's the same thing as positive interventions into the economy. It takes time for those to ripple through. Wages growth is at record lows, and the RBA just cut interest rates to 0.1%. But there has been a raft of relatively good news on the economy in recent weeks, which suggests that some form of economic recovery is unfolding as we go into the summer holiday season. We'll have to see. I'm really hoping that retailers who are struggling through no fault of their own get a bumper summer season. I hope. I suspect it may not happen because some people are just saving because they're worried, which is understandable. Everyone's scared and concerned. There's 2 classes of people in Australia. Well, no, there's several, but let's just say there's 2 groups at the moment. There's those that have secure employment and are, not feeling at all this recession. And then there are those that are copying it really hard. And there's probably those in the middle that have secure employment, but know what's coming, so aren't spending either way. Which one are you? So here's the good news. The release of data on sentiment and confidence are part of the recovery story. That is a firm correlation between measures of sentiment and the performance of the economy. Well, sentiment really is the economy in some regards. if people are happy, positive news, and they're going to jump ahead. When consumers and businesses are optimistic, it points to strong growth. When general gloom and pessimism is usually associated with weak economic conditions. So 1, the Westpac NAB sentiment surveys have risen. The November estimate for the Westpac Melbourne Institute Index of Consumer Sentiment rose to a 7-year high to be up 35.3% since August. Although according to Westpac, the index is a substantial 13% higher than average of the index in the 6 months prior to the March 2020 shutdowns. It is strong, and sentiment towards housing was particularly buoyant. It's because the government is throwing everything at housing. It is creating a bubble, or is perpetuating a bubble in housing with incentives. They're literally bribing the populace to get into it. You've got an artificially low cash rate, an insanely low one. Here's the question. Will all these interventions just, if they work so well, why don't we do them all the time? Why do we have a cash rate over 0%? It shouldn't be negative, just give money everyone, because shit like that doesn't work. There's long-term consequences that manifest. This is the problem with this interventionist approach to the economy. And guys, this isn't how it always has been. The way the economies are now managed around the world, it's 100 years old, if that? The NAB Business Survey for October was similarly positive, with a measure of confidence at +5, the highest since the middle of October 2019. Overall conditions remain below the long-run average, but the momentum higher for the business sector bodes well for stronger investment and hiring in 2021, if it continues. We'll have to see. Spending has lifted. The major banks are also publishing part of their internal data on credit card and debit card activity, and these figures show spending lifted strongly into the early parts of November. Part of this is linked to the opening up of Victoria and a return to spending there, but the other states are already also registering strong gains, and it'll keep getting better. This bodes well for retail spending into the final months of 2020, which is likely to spill over to some further recovery in employment and hours worked. These are signs of good news. Yeah, but how much of that retail spending is just going to be temporary jobs, result in temporary unemployment? There's no mention of all of the trade issues that's occurring. There's no mention of the tourism sector that's being hit. There's no mention of the complete decline in bankruptcies that have occurred. No mention of trade. No mention of any of the risks that are actually associated with everything that we've done to get the economy chugging like this. Look at all the stimulus it's thrown. Do people not see it? Don't they see it? Or don't they care? Or is it just positive spin? So house prices will rise. House prices remain upbeat, with most cities registering price increases in recent months, except for apartments. Strong growth in housing finance, aided by record low interest rates and an easing in lending rules, are underpinning the upturn. In 2020 to date, house prices have risen in Hobart, Canberra, Adelaide, Brisbane and Sydney, while prices in Perth and Darwin are broadly flat. Melbourne house prices remain down from the start of the year, but the opening up of the city has sparked a lift in sales activity, which is widely expected to show up in a turn higher in house prices in the months ahead. Iron ore prices are propping up trade. While commodity prices are fickle, the price of iron ore at around $125 a ton remains more than double the level assumed in the recent budget and is providing a huge boost to the international trade surplus, adding substantially to the national income. But we'll have to see if that continues. It's funny that as China, all the other ones that they're banning, not iron ore yet. And that'd be a huge hit to WA. So stock markets are rallying. Well, a stock market's even a real part of the economy. They're all fantasy world in the moment. They're hoping for stimulus. Rounding out the good news is the recent lift in share prices. The ASX has risen 40% from the March lows, which were driven by the recession and coronavirus lockdowns throughout Australia and much of the world. Rising stock prices are important for several reasons. They show investors are confident in the earnings and profits of the business sector, and they boost the wealth of shareholders, which underpins confidence in spending. Or it shows that investing in other parts of the economy is providing such low returns that they're going to the stock market. I mean, people that might sit money in the bank, what's the point in keeping it? The bottom line, it is clearly too early to be thinking the economy is fixed and that 2021 will be a year of strong growth and a complete recovery. But it is encouraging to see several key indicators all pointing to better economic news, and the worst of the recession is behind us. The big challenge will be to sustain the good news and then translate it to jobs and a return to a full economy. No mention of all of the government interventions when they're removed. Maybe that's the secret, guys. They're never going to be removed. So what do you think? Do you agree with Koukoulas? Do you think the worst of our economy, the bad times are over? Is it just good times, roses and beer and parades from going forward? I don't know where I'm going with that story. What do you think? Do you think it's going to get better? Or do you think we'll only start to see the real aspects of this next year? As always, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links that you find from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. Every little bit helps. You can buy our merch from Teespring or from HeiseSays. HeiseSays. You can see the pocket squares behind me that Rachel makes. These are actually handmade, locally manufactured, right here in this house merchandise. You can use Gold Pass or the Perth or PayPal as well. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.